I'm curious about your thoughts on the fact that many people also wave this argument that proof of stake is just like a tool to make the rich richer and a centralization tool for the foundation.
Well, yeah. The thing is that I would maybe yeah, it's kind of maybe the problem in general, because if you have like the proof of stake in general builds on top of like the asset, like Ethereum, in case of Ethereum, if you have like 32 like multiple of 32 ether, then you can run the node. But the thing is that it doesn't scale. So with more Ethereum, you have kind of, if you want to stake more, run more validators, that's more risky. That brings like more problems, because you have to run a separate validator for every 32 ether. So if you're a whale with like thousands of ether on your balance, you would have to split like those thousands of ether of yours into like 32 ether each and run the validator. So you get like much more.
Sorry to interrupt there, but can you just touch on the logic on this 32 number before you continue with the rest?
Why it's 32?
Yeah.
Well, there is a theory that Vitalik likes numbers that are multiple of 2. Like if you like have 2 in power of something, that's a good number.
Okay.
But I think there is a security reason to that, and like initially, the idea of validator was to have like 1,000 Ethereum if you want to run a validator, and then it went down to 32. So it's more to the security design why it's 32. I think it brings like more like, yeah, you don't see the ether concentrated within like a certain amount of validators, because if there is more ether in one validator, there is more risk that if it comes down, then there could be some problems with the chain itself.
Okay, and so moving forward with the problem at hand there.
Right. Yeah. So basically, with the Ethereum like at stake, if you have like 32 ether, you have to run those validators. So in our case, we already have more than 1,000 validators running on the infrastructure, and this is like a responsibility as a project you need to take. You need to monitor them. You need to maintain them. There is always some problems that can arise when running the validator, because there is quite some amount of risks that are involved when you run the validator in ETH2, as opposite to like any other chains. And yeah, so I think from the point like you said, the richer gets richer in that case, but at the same time, there is more like work the richer person needs to do, because there is like more responsibility. You have to run more validator nodes. You have to spend more time on monitoring them, and at the same time, the rewards don't compound. That's another like thing. They don't compound on the validator side. So if you have like, I don't know, like more than 32, you still earn only from the 32 ether. Only in case you use the StakeWise, where we allow people to kind of swap the rewards into the stake to get like more stake on that side. So yeah, I hope it answers the question.
I mean, in general, every problem that we may have where the rich get richer or the popular get more popular or the whatever, that's just an unfortunate thing of life that no one has ever managed to know how to deal with, right?
Right. Yeah. That's totally true. And the only maybe thing to keep is good to keep is that if you provide more capital, then you kind of take more risk at the same time as well, because like with more ether at stake, you can lose much more as well. If you don't do that properly, there are like different things that could go wrong with running the validators that could make you poor back, you know, and if you don't do that well. But at the same time, if you yeah, like it really it's really for every person when it comes to staking, it's a balance between like the risks and the capital the person wants to commit for that.
And another concern that I'm just touching on all the hater points here, as you can see, like, but because I do spend a bit of time in the Tesos community, I feel like you have to be sort of aware of everything, right? And which is super hard, and it requires a lot of time. But you do see the criticisms boiling up, and when it comes to something as popular as Ethereum, the criticism points tend to concentrate around a couple of them. Do you think? Okay, EAP 1559 was something that got resurfaced, right? It was, and some people don't know this, it was like an old proposal that they finally managed to fund it through a grant, and we finally managed to get it integrated into the network. And now you have the Ethereum crowd using this argument of the ultrasound money and all this. Do you see yourself Ethereum as money?
Like in terms of like everyone uses Ethereum on a daily basis, and or what do you mean like by Ethereum as money?
Yeah, because like if the argument is ultrasound money, then you're implying that Ethereum is money, right? And that's, let's say, one of the popular criticisms to Bitcoin, that it hasn't managed to be money or cash, that it has sort of like concentrated on it used to be digital gold. I think people are now starting to say digital real estate for whatever reason. They just changed the asset class. Then later on, it's gonna be like digital. I don't know what comes after real estate, but you get the point. So, do you see Ethereum becoming more money than, let's say, Bitcoin?
Well, it could be, but I more think that it could be the assets that are running on top of Ethereum, like the stable coins probably. And like if I think like what's the currency could be for people to use on a daily basis, that could be the kind of the stable coins that we have. Ethereum could stay just on this L1 layer that powers, like secures the whole blockchain, and for kind of day-to-day uses we can use like stable coins for that.
Okay, sorry, did I cut you off by moving the microphone? No, I'm just thinking about that because for me it makes sense to think of Ethereum more as a commodity, right? Rather than money itself. Or I don't know. In general, the Ethereum crowd seems to be less worried about the monetary principles, whereas like the Bitcoin crowd cares more about these things. Which has the caveat of like the DeFi people, they're often just living the decentralized casino mindset, and you're just thinking about yield on top of yield on top of yield. So
Right.
if you had to add more functionalities into StakeWise, yeah, which side would you go towards, or what are you looking to integrate in the future?
Yeah, well, we have like we as a project actually started. So our next steps are to work on more decentralization of the infrastructure. That's something we are releasing in our next version, like V2, which we actually have a community call happening today, and then we will like talk more about the things we bring in V2. That's one thing. Make it more so engage more the community. Like we already see people in our community that are helping us on that journey, and we really want to kind of help them get even more engaged with the project and become like expand the DAO ecosystem that we have. It also comes to the integration, and this is something we are constantly working on, because in projects, it could make more sense, for example, to use the staked Ether assets, because they are mapped one-to-one with Ethereum. And the difference is that with staked Ethereum, while you're holding it, you earn the rewards. And with our like dual token structure, we allow people to kind of use their stake ether token without actually needing to like simply by using any DeFi projects, and the rewards are accumulated in a different contract where they can always come and withdraw them from there. There is no like problems of the rebalancing token or yeah, so any other type of tokens that are hard to integrate with like DeFi projects out there. So yeah, integrations, more decentralization. There is always some space for improvement, even if you feel like you're getting there. There is always some more things you can decentralize. You can secure, right, running the front end part on IPFS. Like you can always do more like technical part towards the decentralization. Integrating our token system with more like other projects out there. And yeah, and spreading the word about StakeWise, that's another thing as well.
That's very interesting. So what components do you feel are not completely decentralized right now, or would you like to be more decentralized on?
Right. So there's like several complexities as it comes to the infrastructure part. There is currently it's hard to delegate the running of the validator to like basically decentralized infrastructure in a way that anyone can run the validator for the project. The reason of that is because there are plenty of responsibilities. If your validator is down, you get penalties. If you run it incorrectly, you can get slashed, which means like you lose 2 free ether, and your the rest of the amount is locked for next like 2 years or so, while we don't get to the phase when you can withdraw the validator, because now you can only deposit, but you can't withdraw the ether from the validator. And yeah, so those two things are the main problems to solve. And the infrastructure part comes to kind of building the incentives to make sure that even if you delegate running the validators to other parties, you can there is no threat to the protocol in case they mess up with something, because running the infrastructure, it's still kind of a responsible thing to do for the project, because if you mess up, then it could affect other users that stake on top of that. So this is something we are currently working at, and yeah, so the infrastructure, I think, is the biggest problem in terms of decentralization as of like the ETH2 staking projects. And the rest of the things we are already in place. We have the DAO that is capable of doing like have the permissions to develop something on top of smart contracts. They can vote on any new proposals, and yeah, basically have it's the only entity that is allowed to make any changes to the project that is related to the smart contracts. That's an important thing, because even if like something happens to the core team when development stops, there is always possibility for the community to take that part over and develop on top or continue with the project.
Do you look at what other DAOs are doing when you're working on your own? I mean, and if so, which ones are you paying attention to?
I think in general, what I'm following the Gnosis DAO. I really like their structure, how they work, and the technological part behind the DAO. Also, like probably the Maker DAO, they have like they were one of the first ones to like bring the concept and have their on-chain voting. So this is something I'm following as well. But the problem with like on-chain voting, for example, is that it's currently very expensive for people to express their opinion. And because it's like you have to pay the gas for every vote, and not many people are willing to do that, like because they kind of just vote but pay the gas for that. Yeah, I think those two are kind of the main ones I'm currently following. And in general, I think there is a really interesting, like as it comes to the gnosis and what they're doing, they're bringing new tools in terms of the DAO, in terms of the off-chain voting, but on-chain execution of the transactions. And you can't execute on-chain without validating that the vote has went through. Like if you have, let's say, off-chain voting using the snapshot, people vote there. You have to make like the tools are to make sure that the vote went through to execute the transaction. So you can't execute that without verifying that part. So there is a lot of interesting concept there. Yeah.
I'm curious about off-chain voting because I haven't seen it, or I'm not up to speed in that front. How does off-chain voting work?
Right. So the off-chain voting usually works with IPFS. This is like the decentralized file system that you can use nowadays. So the way it works is basically you specify the proposal, like what you can do, what you want to change, for example, in the project, or like some new feature, and you upload that to the IPFS file. So that happens, everything happens through the interface, but that's like what happens on the background. You interact with that IPFS, and instead of people submitting their vote through the smart contract, they sign it with their private key off-chain and submit their signature. So we can always have like a list of signatures of people who voted for a specific like option of the vote, like yes or no, for example. And by checking their, like by having the signature and the address that voted off-chain, we can see how many like tokens, for example, that user had, and by summarizing the number of tokens, we can see like how many token holders voted for and against the proposal. So this is how.
When looking at DAOs, I always get very interested because even in Telegram chats, right? So if I moderate the Telegram chat right now, and I sort of do with one, but not actively moderating, just like a community member, you see that there are often a bunch of, let's say, 5, 6 super loud people that you see there every day, and they seem to be paying attention to it every moment. And I assume it must be the same thing with a DAO, right? Some people just get extremely passionate. And in some ways, the things that you do have to be sort of geared towards those 5, 6 people, because then they sort of like set the environment for the rest. But at the same time, you have a very long tail of like the silent minority there that is who are voting and who are supporting your protocol or your project, and who are like racing you to the place that you want to be. So how do you find I mean, what social dynamics do you find interesting within the DAO model?
Yeah, I think like in general, what's the great about the DAO, I think the successful DAO is the one that engages most of the users, the ones like who use the project on a daily basis, or not maybe on a daily basis, but in our case, for example, they stake Ether. They want to use all the features that we provide, like farming and like other things. And at the same time, they are interested in voting, like what should be the next, what they are mostly interested in. So there should be, I think, like there is a core team, and their responsibility is to engage those users as much as they can to the DAO to make the decisions. And there are different ways how you can do that. Like what we are trying to do, we try to measure the activity of the users and appreciate that with, let's say, our native token distribution, or somehow like giving the roles, like if it's a Discord, like giving the roles to the people to kind of so they can so basically there is a scoring system as well, like how many messages you send, you have like levels up, and based on that, if you, for example, reach some level, you get like also, I don't know, airdrop or something, like you're an active DAO member. So in general, I think it's great when you see your votes, or you see the proposals actively voted. You can see yes or no answers, so you can, there is not like constantly everyone voting for the same thing, but there is some diversity in terms of the votes, and also engaging on the forum when there is like some discussion around what's the best way to do that, or people bringing their points, like what matters to them. Out of that, we can build like the better feature on top of that. It's always like, if you have something in mind, you post that on the forum, and then you get like a bunch of comments about it. You can really see that thing from a different angle, and build out of it like something better, like taking in account those comments as well. So I think that's important, and make the people, because all the DAO members, they are like coming from a different background. Some of them are more technical, want to contribute on a code side. Some of them are like in the marketing, who can like help to write some posts about the StakeWise, or they can like help engage more people into the project. And others are just like interested in helping out with whatever they feel like feels interesting to them. So it's just it's great if the DAO can manage to appreciate those activities and make people excited to help the project even more.
You would I'm thinking how to phrase this, but this is the year of the DAO. Well, it would have been the year of the DAO if it hadn't been the year of NFTs, right? But now it seems like everybody's going to the DAO model, and we had to. I did 2 episodes in a row with Joel Valenzuela, who's a Dash community member and a Dash evangelist, and of course, they were some of the first to pioneer the DAO, and Dash has its reserves that are controlled by a DAO as well, somewhat successfully. I'm not too into the DAO model of Dash. I do follow Maker, for example, and Maker, I would agree with you that they were the first to like sort of nail the concept. But in those, when we were talking about the Dash DAO, in those episodes with Joel, we spoke a lot about Shapeshift and how they sort of took a proactive approach to DAO in their model, because they already sort of had the SEC knock on their door, and they were sort of afraid that that would happen again, and it would again slash their communities. And I would say that nowadays you sort of score the legitimacy of a project by how fast they move towards DAO, and or if they even have the intention, and that creates this other dynamic. it's all it's all coordination, like Koboki would say. It's all coordination, and it's all these social games, because now you do have a lot of people that have no interest in decentralization, but they're wielding the DAO thing because it's sort of like what you're supposed to be doing, right? So it's like a marketing strategy. Oh yeah, we're eventually going to become a DAO. What would you advise people to tell sort of like the fake DAOs from the real people that are really interested in decentralization? Or should we just give it credit because they're they're mentioning DAO?
I think in general, thinking towards that direction is already great. Maybe like you shouldn't rush that thing to kind of, like from tomorrow we have a DAO, for example. I think it comes with more people liking the project and wanting to help in some way, and that actually forms the DAO at that sense. It's not like when you have already like on-chain, off-chain voting in place, you have like your token, and you have that possibility. But there is not much sense in the DAO when you have like a small amount of like only, let's say, core members voting on the different features. That's something that you can actually, you can not spend like time on that, or develop something more to the feature of the project. So I would suggest to just that like the DAO idea, or maybe just wait for that moment when you see that now it makes sense to, let's say, have a token voting, because there are more people who want to express their opinion, who are interested in helping out, and there are like more. It's not just within the core team. There you have to take into account the opinions of like the users of your project. So yeah, I think usually it's great to start as a more centralized entity, build the core product, build the feature and features like what you plan to kind of bring to the market. And when people start forming around that product, when people start to like it, like engage with the team, then it's good time to, I think, start like looking towards the DAO.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I would say that if you go into a DAO, it's very simple to tell who's implementing things by the community and who isn't. And I would find it unfortunate that I don't see many of the biggest projects that are doing DAOs actually implementing things that are born in the community. In Uniswap, for example, I think we're yet to see one big thing come from the Uniswap DAO, is it?
Yeah.
And well, one thing that also very much interested me from StakeWise was the different strategies for staking and from earning rewards from staking. So would you like to speak a little bit about that?